Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fearless Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Lynne, and today I'm happy to have on Thomas Zera from the Subpool. Welcome, Thomas.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for the invitation. So great to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just getting to connect with you a little bit before the episode, and we were talking about this great initiative that you've just launched, which is how we found each other on Instagram. So I'm happy if you introduce yourself to our audience today, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. I love the Fearless Artist, by the way. I've done a bit of research on what you're doing for the freelance community, and I think it's a tremendous resource. So I'd like to thank you for being here and for doing this for the freelance community.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you.
So my backstory is I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I'm a double bassist right now with the Utah Symphony and founder of the Subpool. I went to my undergrad at the Hart School of Music and my master's at Juilliard, and then started a performance career with the New World Symphony in Miami
Okay.
Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
Then headed off to Buffalo. I was there for 4 years, or 3.5 years or so. And then first full-time job was the Syracuse Symphony, which I was, I think, a member of for about 24 hours before I won a job in the Buffalo Philharmonic. so,
Okay.
so
Wow.
then, not too far away. Yeah. So I was taking
Fast
any,
upgrade.
and it was quick
Yeah.
and nearby, 3 hours away. So I was just out of New World and taking every audition that was around, and Buffalo Phil was there, and that was my hometown. So it was great to play there for a year. And then within a few months of that, I won a job in the Utah Symphony and
Okay.
took that job. And I've been here as a section bass player since 1999.
Okay. Fantastic.
So fast forwarding to 2016 through 18, I was playing here in Utah for a number of years. And I came up with an idea to take a sabbatical and study how the bass sounds differently or how an orchestra sound differently in different halls. So let's say I was substituting in Minnesota because I had some dear friends in the Minnesota orchestra. So I would play in Utah, and then on my breaks from here, I would go to Minnesota and I'd substitute there, and I would play. And I got to do that for a number, I think starting in 2004. So it was quite a while. And I came up with this idea of how I play differently in Minnesota. And why do I play differently there? Well, because the bass players play differently, the orchestra plays differently, the hall is different. So I took upon myself a sabbatical study to travel the country between 2016 and 18 and try and play in as many different halls and on as many different stages as possible to study the differences in the bass sections, how my bass sounds different on different stages, to try and assess or figure out or surmise why the orchestras sound different in different places, like how one orchestra will play Beethoven 5 similarly or differently from another orchestra. And while I was doing this, driving all over the country between Nashville and St. Louis and Cambridge, where I was living, and I was driving all around thinking, I am limited to the number of orchestras I can play in based on who I know. So
Mm.
it's only my old colleagues from New World or from Juilliard. I will call them up and say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. How can I come and play?" And they said, "Well, we can't offer you a membership in the orchestra, but we can have you come in as a substitute.
Hmm.
So when somebody gets sick or there's a vacancy, we can ask you to come and fill in as a substitute." And I started putting these pieces together. And I utilized the nature of the substitute in the orchestra to be able to go and do the sabbatical study. So I was traveling around. I played with 11 different orchestras, including some pretty big orchestras like the Cleveland Orchestra and the Philadelphia Orchestra. San Francisco Symphony was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Uh, but I was using the substitute concept to be able to go and play, to be able to afford to go and play, because as we all know, it's very expensive to travel and perform.
Yeah.
So two things happened during that time. I came up with the idea of using the substitute nature of the need of an orchestra to have a substitute in order to play different places. And then secondarily was thinking, I'm limited to only who I know. What if there was a resource that allowed me to advertise to all these orchestras that I'm available? Somebody like me, a bass player in a tier one orchestra, a group one orchestra, is available to substitute on, let's say, these dates or whatever. And that idea has been incubating since about 2018 until about 6 or 9 months ago when I started thinking about how to create this resource.
Hmm.
And I started doing some research. I started reaching out to musician colleagues, reaching out to freelance people that are freelancing in the modern day that I know, and I started reaching out to managers. I reached out to my resources in the League of American Orchestras, executive directors, presidents of symphonies, to gauge whether this sort of thing was number one needed, number two wanted, number
Yeah.
three does it have any value, and there have been no barriers whatsoever. It seems like, and maybe you may know this because of the nature of what you're doing, your resource that you've created to support substitute or freelance or traveling musicians, that there's a need for that sort of support. There's a need for that sort of connectivity, and there's a need to traveling and freelance musicians always are looking for more work, as far as I
Mm.
can tell. And
Yeah.
so this is a resource that enables them to advertise themselves for this short-term work in orchestras, whatever manager is looking for musicians that would match up with what they can deliver.
Fantastic. Deanna also subs with the Minnesota Orchestra, so it's nice that you mentioned that. Um, so I'm curious, as a non-orchestral musician, obviously I'm a pianist. Typically, I understand that orchestras have their sub list when they need someone. So how does the Subpool fit in? And I'm also curious what kind of responses you were getting from people when you presented your idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So almost every orchestra has a contract with a AF of M local. So they all have um, some sort of either a rule or a contract language or just a process that they've always used for their substitutes. They've had to create it. They are all different. I have not met any manager that has the same process. So
Okay.
they all have a different way of doing it. And some managers say there is real no standardized way of hiring subs or finding subs. So anything you can provide for us, Tom, would be great, because we just don't have, as personnel managers for finding substitutes, no one's really helped us try and make this process easier for us or for the musicians. As far as who orchestras hire, almost all of them have a process already. Almost all of them have their sub lists run dry eventually.
Okay.
So they almost always run out. Sometimes, like let's say, a lot of times a principal player will be in charge of creating a list or giving names to the manager, call list, let's say, a run call list. And almost all the time they run dry at some point because freelance musicians can get busy at certain points. Sometimes they're needed at the last minute and they're already booked someplace else.
Right.
Um, and this goes for orchestras of every level, from group one orchestras to regional orchestras, who some of those managers want to run their entire sub lists through the Subpool
Okay.
because it's just an easy platform for them to be able to do it. So there are I think I have 608 orchestras in the Subpool right now as a drop down, as far as the orchestras that I know of that the musicians from the Subpool play in or have played in before, and they all had these different processes. So I tried to create a program that would enable everyone to use it and enable it to be simple for the managers, quick for the managers to hire, and reach out to musicians, and easy for the musicians to see exactly what they're being asked for.
Wow. So you've made contact with 608 orchestras.
We have 608 orchestras in our drop down list. So these are the orchestras that we know of that people play at.
Got it.
Uh, Trying to find what orchestras are out there. Where do you find them? I mean, you might find them on IRS data. You might find them on Bureau of Statistics. They're hard to find, actually.
Okay.
And they're hard to find orchestras that actually, are different from civic orchestras that sometimes don't pay their musicians or pay them very little. Or they do civic orchestras will sometimes have musicians play just for the fun of it. And so that's
Mm.
different than a regional orchestra, which is a non-for-profit that actually pays the musicians living wages and so forth. So trying to
So there's
find these orchestras,
there's no existing database.
there isn't an existing database. There's not one database that I've found yet. I've
Wow.
found
So you
A
are the
lot of
database.
data. I think we are. I think we
Okay.
will be. I think we
Okay.
are for this sector.
Yeah.
So there's also youth orchestras.
Right.
There's also military bands, which is something that I never thought of until a military gentleman musician got a hold of me and said, "Hey, what about us? We love to play things that are not John Philip Sousa. We would
Right.
love to play." And so I added 110 military bands to the list of where musicians can, when they log on, they create a profile and
Okay.
they give their work experience, where they're members, where they've substituted, and the system puts those in a format that's really easy for the managers to see.
Okay.
So when they do a search, they can just look at their computer or their phone and see the history of where these musicians have played, and to make their process of finding subs quicker and easier.
Okay. Fantastic. So, yeah, my next question was how does it work? So, you're starting to explain that. A musician comes on, makes a profile. Do they also request for orchestras to look at them, or how does it work?
No, so right now, what the need comes from a manager. Not all managers need subs every week, but they do need them either for short term, um, what's the word, soon, or further down the road. So let's say they know someone is going to take leave in June or May. So they may hire now for June or May, or they might have a violist that became sick immediately, got a phone call and needs that, and their sub list is dry. And they need to jump on and find a violist right away. So what a musician does, the musician profile is free to sign up, and they just go on the website and they put in their instrument and their or instruments. So you can actually put in a work history for more than one instrument. So let's say a pianist can put in. We've selected a few different instruments for piano, like jazz piano, classical piano. And I think we may have even divided out organ or harpsichord possibly, but like a work history for a pianist could involve multiple instruments,
Sure.
or it could involve trumpet players could have like a piccolo trumpet, and then or jazz trumpet and classical trumpet. So they pick out their work history, they add their work history, and then they are members of the subpool and they can be searched by managers. So it's a
Okay.
very simple and quick process. And then managers, when they do their searches, these musicians can show up in searches. We also, so those are the minimum requirements that we ask musicians to fill out. They can also decide where in the country, in the US and Canada. So we have US and Canada right now, where in these countries and regions they want to play in. We've divided the country into what we like to call, we've done a bunch of research. I've done a bunch of research on where musicians are likely to travel in a grouping. So driving distance or relative driving distance, relative to the number of orchestras. So we created regions like Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Southeast. And musicians can choose to be selected only in these certain regions if they want to be. If
Okay.
they only want to play in the Northeast, they'll only select, I'm only available for orchestras that want me to come to the Northeast.
Because travel costs are on the musician, I'm assuming.
That's correct.
Right. So then they can say, or if you have a family across
Well,
the country, you can say, I'd like to be guest there. So I can.
which is what I say all the time, because I have family that live in the Tampa area, and
Mm,
I would be happy to play in the Florida Orchestra, to go down and play there and visit my family, or
yeah, I'm always looking
or
for
I,
reasons to get back to Canada. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and every musician has a different reason for going to a different town. They could have a friend. They could just want to travel. They, like me, sometimes are a little bit tired of the winter and would love
Yeah.
to go someplace a little warmer,
Right. Yeah.
even if that's only St. Louis this time of year, which could be in the 50s or 60s versus 20s and 30s, in the north. So anyway, it allows maximum flexibility for musicians, and also creates communication between managers and musicians. So
Hmm.
for managers, the value statement for managers is you're meeting people that you were not connected to before.
Right.
So your principal has a sub list. The sub list runs dry. You go to your principal and you say, I need a section person to play next week. And they're like, I don't have anyone. Just see who you can find. Now the manager has a tool to say, okay, these people say they're available. I've connected with them. I've done a search. They tell me they're available to come and play. They can take their phone up to the manager and say, I have these few people. Would you like me to invite one of these? And they would say probably yes to one of these. And they can hire them within a few minutes, send documents back and forth. The musician can be contacted very quickly because we've enabled an SMS feature also.
Oh,
So
great.
and that was a request from the managers. And I think this is probably a great idea. I check my phone all the time,
Yeah.
but not every musician does that. Sometimes it takes them a day to get to their emails, where
Yeah.
SMSs it goes to the musician much more quickly, and they're more apt to respond to an SMS. So we just added the SMS feature to every request from the manager.
Okay. Are you surprised that you're the first person to come up with this idea, or have you seen similar initiatives?
There are other tools out there that allow managers to manage their sublists, but there's no tool that drives from a musician side that supports the musician, that enables a tool it supports the musician that can be searchable by a manager.
Hmm.
It's opposite from what I've seen before. And I don't know why it's not out there. And which is one of the reasons that we're doing it, because we think it has a lot of value, and we're just starting. We did launch in January. And so that's feels like it was a long time ago, but in this sort of platform, it's actually brand new. So
January, like 2 months ago, January.
2 months ago.
Okay, yeah, you're brand new.
Brand new. And we're letting people know. And one of the reasons I wanted to come on your podcast specifically was because I wanted musicians who are interested in this short-term hire to know that it's there. It's hard to reach musicians. There's no LinkedIn for musicians right now. They're not on LinkedIn. They're on maybe social media. So they're maybe on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
Where else? We're trying to meet them where they are, but there's, again, no central location. Could the Subpool be that in the future? We hope so. We want to create like a community for musicians, in our phase 2 and phase 3, and the plans of where this could go is really cool, I have to say. I mean, from somebody who likes to build stuff, this is going to be almost like I feel like it could be, and it's going to be whatever the musicians want it to be, whatever they need it to be. And on the manager side, whatever their needs are. But we want it to be like a community resource for freelance and short-term hire musicians. And we're building it toward that direction. And it sounds like so far musicians would really like that.
When you say that you support the musician as opposed to other initiatives you've seen, can you talk more about what that entails?
It's musician focused. So it's, how do the musicians need things to look like? I'm looking at it from the freelance musician side. So I know I'm a tenured member of an orchestra, but funny enough, I've actually played in 21 different symphonies in the United States.
Okay.
So when I was living in Florida, I used to travel to Tampa, to Florida West Coast Symphony, which is now the Sarasota Orchestra, to play. I played in Jacksonville. And then when I was at Juilliard, I was in the Hartford Symphony. Then there was an orchestra in New London, Connecticut I played in. I played in the Hudson Valley Philharmonic, which I think is called something else now. So I freelanced all around New York. I freelanced all around Florida. And then in my sabbatical study, I played with 11 different orchestras. It was essentially a more modern day freelancer. Funny enough, nothing's really changed. You still drive to each gig. Now, you mentioned before, who pays for travel? Some orchestras, and it's almost case dependent. Some orchestras will pay for travel and pay for accommodation. And the Subpool does allow for that on the manager side and the musician side. Like some musicians will say, well, I'll only travel to New York if they pay for my travel and accommodation.
Mm-hmm.
And so a musician can say that on their profile. And if a manager really needs them, managers have a lot of incentive to pay a little extra to get a musician there for something.
Right.
Like when I went to Minnesota at that time, they were not paying for any travel. I went there and I paid for all my travel just because I wanted to. And it made sense for me. That may not make sense for everyone, but the Subpool allows the musician and the manager to talk about that and have a conversation. Because if there's a dire need for a musician, the manager has more incentive to ask the musician maybe a little more in pay or pay in travel or something. but it
Yeah.
creates the connectivity, which I think is the most important, that musicians can connect. If they want to have a countrywide career, they could if they want, or if they want to just go visit their mother in Florida, they could do that too.
So why is it important for you to have a supported musician in the subpool?
I think because I am one. I think
Mm.
because I
Mhm.
do have some managerial experience. I got an MBA during the pandemic, and
Oh,
so
wow.
I
Cool.
I reached out. I reached. I was doing a little bit of executive director work and arts leadership work for a little while. So I saw the managerial side and I see the musician side. But I think all the products that I've seen so far support the managerial side, where I think the freelance musician is still in need of connectivity and support in any way. And what we have going in the future, like allowing them to, like a LinkedIn where they can advertise themselves with videos, or they can connect with each other in a LinkedIn style. And we're not sure exactly what that's going to be yet, but creating a community of freelance musicians, I think, is something that's the musicians could use. And I think the industry at large would be better off having musicians be able to connect with managers in a more holistic way than what's possible now. I think
Mm.
it'll just help the music get out there. I think
Mhm.
right now, like somebody in let's say Mississippi wants to hire somebody, but they just don't have the resource. They can't reach the violists that they need. There's no violists in that area. They don't know them. So somebody who's willing to expand their range, expand their career, then they go and they play with these musicians and they go out to dinner after. They make connections with musicians in Mississippi, and where that could go, I make a ton of connections and I have a great time traveling. I enjoy playing with other musicians artistically and personally. And I've seen a lot of good things happen when people travel and play, and maybe there are other musicians out there that feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, community is obviously one of our core values, and that's what we've really found in our Fast Forward community, that people are desperate to have like-minded individuals. I mean, we've had so many people tell us how alone they have felt before finding Fast Forward, not having anyone who understands you, not knowing how to advocate for yourself. Our last workshop, actually last week, was around negotiations. So I'm curious to ask how you guys are presenting that as well. Is there room for the musician to say, "This is what I need"? Because typically we've just been told, like, this is the fee, say yes or no, and if not, I'll go to the next person on the list. So I'm really happy to hear that there's space for that.
Yeah, there's communication. So a musician, when they get a request from a manager, there's three selections they can choose from. One is accept, one is decline, and one is ask a qualifying question. So in other
Okay.
words, the manager will usually, on a request for availability, will give some qualifying information, higher level, like this is the orchestra, these are the dates, this is the pay range, or this is the pay scale for this particular request. And then the musician has a choice to accept or decline, or ask a question. And the community, they can ask a question, they can communicate back and forth about, they can, if their pay scale isn't enough, they could say, I could do that for either, travel. If you could pay for my travel, I'll do it. Or if you can, or if you can pay more in scale, I'd be happy to do that. And it just allows connectivity and allows communication, which I think is important.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple times LinkedIn and becoming the LinkedIn for musicians. What about that is appealing, or what do you think that LinkedIn offers that we don't currently have on, Facebook, Instagram profiles?
I think being in one central location where everyone could be for just musicians.
Mm,
Right
mhm.
now, those platforms are for all kinds of disciplines. So I wouldn't say it's diluted. I would say that it's not always easy to find what you're looking for. Where this community, I think, could be tight knit enough to support its own platform, really, and to have
Mhm.
one place so if there's, what I say, 608 orchestras. How many contractors are out there? Touring groups. We start going into international, and I haven't done the research. I don't even know, but I can imagine there's a lot. So having a resource where musicians can advertise themselves, like YouTube videos, or press photos, or even snippets of their performances, or they can list immediate performances. One central location for musicians to be able to tell people what they do and why they do it, and then even communicate, and then maybe forums. There are all kinds of things being thrown out there. The more meetings I have, the longer my list of what happens in the future becomes, and it's getting full.
Okay, so you said you're a builder. So what are you willing to share some other these phase 2, phase 3? Like what are you building?
So I've already mentioned a few of these things, like connectivity with musicians to be able to talk to each other, groups. I'd like to make the profile more robust and more visual also. So I'm seeing some my resume was black and white paper
Mm.
and ink, where I think a resume for a musician could be digital and it could be audible and it could be so much greater. Like
Mm. Hmm.
what if you could promote yourselves in ways that wasn't just a black and white piece of paper? And so we're looking into ways that, but it's already being done. Like people can already put their music on YouTube, but how can that be all in one place together in one profile where you have everything easily seen, easily heard. Um, so there's these sort of things. Functionality wise, I think the industry is going to take us in different ways. So managers are going to need things in the future, like functionality on the manager side. How can they um, manage their sub lists more effectively? So they're starting to tell us little things that they would like. So adapting that on the musician side, I see it being more of a community based interactive tool where musicians can really show their what they do or sound how they sound the best. They can promote themselves in the way that is most advantageous to them, for managers to look at, search, and find that musician that be the perfect fit for their particular situation, whatever
Hmm.
that might be. And future connectivity could be all kinds of things, and we're not sure where it's going to go yet, and maybe it hasn't been invented yet. Maybe this will be the forum that creates something that's new out there, and in a way that musicians can um, advertise themselves. But
So what?
support,
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, support. I wanted to mention the support part. Freelance musicians, some freelance musicians have mentioned, I know that because I'm a tenured member, I have the support of an organization that gives me health insurance, musical instrument insurance, and access to these sort of things. And we're starting to explore now the possibility of creating, I don't know if it's a platform, but creating a mechanism for freelance musicians to have the support in these areas too. Maybe even travel insurance, maybe even talking to, I don't know if I can get as far as airlines, but making travel easier or making accommodations easier or making one idea I had was having a group where they could talk, musicians could talk to each other. Let's say they're traveling to a city and a more remote city, and they could carpool or they could house share if they need to go into certain places. So that's like a connectivity tool that I'd like to look into in the future. But support in a broader scale, as far as like health insurance, musical instrument insurance, musical instrument loan products are out there. So when I say support, that's the kind of thing that I'm thinking of and looking into right now, which is when we have more musicians traveling more, doing more of the same thing, we can create a base to support musicians in that manner.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I love hearing anyone who's trying to come and stand behind the artist. So that's great. In terms of pricing, I know it's free to join. So how do you envision or the business model?
Yeah. So the business model is I tried to figure out a way, if I was freelancing now, the way I was before, what did I spend on and what could I afford when I was freelancing? So I came at it from that angle, and I did a bunch of market research. I talked to a lot of musicians about what they would pay for this sort of thing, this sort of opportunity. So instead of going at it from a how can we, I went at it from a how can we make it work? How cost effective can I make it? And how can I make the musician earn it before they pay for it? So what I've done
Mm-hmm.
is I'm giving 1 gig away for free. So a musician can right now go on their profile, set up their profile, and be searchable to a personnel manager. They could be contacted and hired, and they can play with that orchestra. There'd be no charge for that. It's only if they like what happened and they want to continue being part of the subpool. If they're asked to play a second time, we ask them to become a member of the subpool. So right now, our launch program is a year subscription. It's a year subscription for $59. So $59, unlimited gigs for $59. And if you play your one gig for free, you've already earned the money for the 59, the membership.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the rest of your season, there's no charge fee. So that's it. When we go after our launch promotion, the standard pricing will be $100 a year for a membership and $99.99 per month, if that makes more sense to a musician. And we started with that amount. I tried to get that cost to less than a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it. So
well, flat whites over here are like $6, so you're probably very close. Yeah.
Well, we got it. We like to say that we couldn't get it to under the cost of a cup of coffee, but we did get it to under 2 lattes per month.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm surprised. I thought that you'd be taking a commission per gig. So it's interesting to hear that it's an annual subscription to me.
So my pricing models, I like building this sort of stuff anyway. So my pricing model is on a big, huge screen, and it goes for multiple screens. And it's this big monster that I created to try and figure out what would make sense to the musician and how that would make this thing actually work. Mm-hmm. And what we ended up, it was a couple months study to try and figure that out. And also to do market research. Every musician I talked to, every single one said they would pay much more than that. Mm-hmm. So I feel really good about being at a place that I feel like $10 a month for musicians to be able to earn, like in 1 week, the average ROPA orchestra will pay about $1,000 gross. So the musician will have to decide, and we'll have to decide if that's worth it to them. But spending $10 for the possibility of being hired for $1,000, or then maybe in a second week $2,000, we think that number makes sense to musicians.
Yeah. So you say we when you're talking about the organization. Are you have a team, or are you the team?
No, we have a team. So we have. Yeah. We have a few people that started it. My partner, Jen, and I started this concept, but we've been reaching out to industry experts. Carrie Marcantonio is literally a hero in the personnel manager field. She's semi-retired. Her last personnel manager job was at the Cleveland Orchestra. Mm-hmm. And she's come on as an ambassador and has been integral in helping us build the tool from the manager side. Okay. And then we have freelance musicians that are our ambassadors also. And they're out there on using the tool. They're out there on Facebook and social media, and they're talking to people in their orchestras when they play. So these are folks that we talked to about what this was, and they're fully on. They jumped in the pool with both feet, and they're all in it. So Carrie was very helpful in building it, and then the musicians are very, very helpful in getting the word out. And so they're helping musicians get work and helping the music flow, which is exactly why we're doing all this.
So you already have managers do managers also have a profile where they sign in and then search, or how does that work?
Yeah. So managers are connected to an orchestra. On our website, we have a manager link. I want to make sure that I know who every manager is. And so we have, like I said, we have a lot of orchestras, and then that's a lot of managers to capture. And so they fill out a form, and I connect them. I do all of this manually right now. So when managers sign up, I want to make sure when a search goes out that it's a real person and a real orchestra. So I'm very protective of the musicians right now. So I wanted to
like the Craigslist ad of renting an apartment that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah. So we're going to have a conversation if I don't know who you are and find out what your needs are. And so there is an entire contractor market out there. We've just started conversations with like contractors, and this is a whole separate. It's not separate. It's just in parallel with the symphony orchestras that I have in mind. So this is something that can definitely happen, but it's going to take a lot more work on my side to understand who the contractors are and what organizations they they contract for, and so forth. So that's definitely something we're looking at in the future as well. If contractors need this sort of product to reach musicians, we're going to be there for them eventually. But right now we're starting with 608 orchestras that we know of and our musicians have played in, and that I've been able to verify.
So let's say you have a classical pianist who's a soloist. Can they make a profile to be approached for concertos?
I don't think that this platform is set up for solos and concertos.
Okay.
I think that's more of an artist representation.
Okay.
We're not representing artists. We're just um, in a place to help musicians or help managers find short-term hires. So
Got it.
we may end up in that kind of place if there's a need in the industry, but I know that there are a lot of artist representation firms out there that seem to be doing very well. I don't know a lot about that world. If the industry takes us there, if there's a need for it, we will certainly support.
I just
But
thought of it
right,
because one of our fast forward members, she posted her playing Rhapsody in Blue on her Instagram, and then the Alaskan Orchestra, their soloist, had to drop out because they were sick. And a friend of hers had seen her posting it on Instagram and said, "Hey, she knows the concerto. She's ready to go." And they called her, and she got flown out to Alaska to go solo. So
awesome.
there are these moments where that last minute jump in might work for a soloist. You never know.
We're just starting and we're getting suggestions from all these people. And if somebody tells me they need that, we can certainly create a conduit to help that part of the industry. If there's a need for that, we'd be happy to be involved.
Yeah. Well, as soon as that happens, I'll sign up for a profile as a pianist. Tell me about like a challenge or a setback you've had with starting this project. Cause I mean, you're talking, obviously it's wonderful initiative and things are going well, but I'm sure on the storyline, there was some ebbs in the flow as a fellow
We've just been,
entrepreneur.
yeah, there should be. And I want there to be more. There aren't.
Okay,
We,
great.
well, I took the approach. I am going to pitch this concept and wait for someone to tell me why I shouldn't do it.
Mhm.
And I never got anyone to tell me. And so we just kept going and kept going. And now we built it and now it's running and now people are searching and people are playing. I would say the only, I wouldn't even say it's pushback. I would expect to get more attention from smaller orchestras group orchestras like ROPA and IXAM. IXAM are some of the larger orchestras, but um, there are some musicians who have said to me they're worried about the substitute pool being available to managers that would replace them with other musicians from not their region.
Mm,
And I have not seen any evidence of that anywhere. I have not seen, because I know that managers covet their musicians and they need musicians. I'm not sure why they would purposefully replace a musician. And having a musician be better or worse is really subjective. It's
mhm.
a musician could be a perfect fit culturally for an organization, no matter how the performance goes or doesn't go. There's a lot that goes into the perfect fit of a musician in an orchestra, which of course we have nothing to do with. We just put managers in touch with musicians. So
Yeah.
and it's mainly meant for when the manager doesn't have any more choices. I know that managers have told me that they don't have anything to do with artistic decisions.
Mhm.
They fill the spots that their music director or their principals tell them, and they essentially do what they're told. And if they're told to go find a musician, they need to go do that somehow.
Okay.
So that's the only pushback that I've gotten, and I haven't seen any evidence of that happening. And I don't expect to.
Mhm.
I expect all musicians to be able to expand their range if they want to.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. So you already have musicians who have signed up and there's already ones getting hired, you mentioned, so it's
Yeah,
working?
it's
Okay.
working. Yes.
Okay. So what's
Yeah.
been the most exciting moment for you when you were like, "Wow, this like I've pulled this off?"
Every step of the way when there's been a success has been cool. Like when the tool works and we see people working it, because it was a lot to build technically. So we
Yeah.
had a software developer build it and then we tested extensively. And
Okay.
that took at least 30 days, if not 45 days of serious testing to find out what worked and what didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it finally worked and I couldn't break it anymore. So my technical person said, just try and break it. Just try and put in dumb characters and try and do whatever you can, because you never know when the keystroke was going to screw things up. And it was fun when I finally couldn't break it.
Okay. It's a great
So
moment.
yeah, and when people are getting hired and communication is happening, I get a text message that says, "Tom, thank you so much. I just got hired." And
Amazing.
that's all I need. That's great.
Cool. Great. So for all our freelancers in US and Canada listening, what should they be doing right now?
It's the subpool.com. And there's a place for you to create your musician profile, create your profile. And there's also links for you to contact me if you want to. Just send me an email, tell me how it's going, tell me if you would like an oh, there's also a place for to add orchestras. So sometimes I haven't been able to capture every orchestra and put on our list. So if you've played somewhere and you want to add it to your profile, there's a little link there for you just to tell me. It's a jot form that says, "Hey, I played in this orchestra, Tom. Could you add it?" And I add those almost every day. I'm adding orchestras.
Okay, amazing. Well, everyone listening can go sign up and make their profile in the Subpool. And we like to finish our episodes with an action point. So maybe from the entrepreneurial perspective or the freelance perspective, what would you encourage freelancers to do?
I love the stuff that you have on your website. It's so broad. All these concepts and ideas, or on your podcast rather, all these different ideas of ways that musicians can expand themselves in ways that aren't necessarily in the practice room or with vibrato or with glissando. So anything that they see that feels right to them to take music to another dimension, I think would be a benefit to not only yourself feeling good about yourself, but other people that are watching you do it and hearing you do that. So any of these little things that you think of that could be something cool, or why didn't someone do this? I would encourage you to start asking people about it and taking that step, because if it feels good to you, you're probably going to do it well, and there's probably a need for it.
Cool. I love that. Well, thanks for what you have brought to our musician community and for filling that need. It's been a great pleasure to have you today.
Great pleasure to talk with you, Michelle. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Make sure you follow Tom at the Subpool, and we'll see you on the next episode. Be fearless. Thanks, Tom.